Live via satellite from Hollywood and Philadelphia, it's Rockline, the show where you interview the biggest stars in rock and roll. Hello again, I'm Bob Coburn. Rockline is brought to you in part by Budweiser, Nothing Beats a Bud, and by Odyssey, the new sound system from Delco Electronics. You won't just hear it, you'll feel it. Tonight, it's an evening with the drummer and lyricist for Rush, Mr. Neil Peart. So get your questions ready and call us toll-free in the U.S. and Canada at 1-800-344-ROCK. That's 1-800-344-7625. One number toll-free from anywhere in North America. Now, you know, we've been blessed recently with a series of first-time appearances on Rockline by some of the preeminent figures in rock and roll. Tonight, that trend continues as we welcome the man who wields the pen and the stick for Rush, Mr. Neil Peart. Neil, good evening and welcome. How are you tonight?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you there. Neil is in Philadelphia. I'm in the Hollywood Rockline studio. Let me first of all congratulate you on Roll the Bones. Your observations on life are beautifully stated throughout the CD. And life is kind of a crapshoot, isn't it?
It certainly can be. It struck me more and more the more I thought about it, how lucky and or unlucky you can be every day. Take
a chance. Roll the bones. Somebody told me, too, for years you have been known in rock and roll as Neil Peart. And I was told that the real pronunciation is more Peart. Is that correct?
That's it. That's correct.
So yes. It is Neil Peart. Heretofore you shall be known as that name. So
hopefully so. Although I answer to anything.
You answer to anything, huh? You know, Rush is really one of, to me, only a very few bands that really do seem to grow between releases. And I'm kind of curious, after 17 years, what is it that makes Rush still a viable band? Is it something as simple as the chemistry between the three of you, or something a little too complex for you to explain?
A combination of the two, probably. It's both simple and complex. First of all, fundamentally, of course, we do still get along really well, and that's fundamental. But I think it has a lot to do with the equal amounts of input and satisfaction that we get out of what we do. Everyone gets to contribute, myself writing the lyrics and the other two guys writing the music, so there's an exactly equal amount of collaboration, and not like in many bands where one person writes all the songs, so the other guys might feel a little overlooked or frustrated. And at the same time, the amount of satisfaction that comes back for the three of us is equal, that when we hear a song finished or hear a finished record as a total thing, that we all feel the same amount of satisfaction with it, and probably the same sensitivity to the flaws.
I don't know if it's just my ears, but the record sonically sounds a little different to me. Not quite as many keyboards. The bass from Geddy sounds a little bit different. Is that just me, or is that what happened with this CD?
I would say yes, it does sound different, but it's difficult sometimes to quantify the reasons why that should be so. I think the songs sometimes dictate the sounds that it should take, and for instance, from a drumming point of view, I didn't specifically set out not to use electronics this time, but it just happened that the songs didn't necessarily require it, so I found I was nearly always using acoustic drums, and that affects the sound, and the songs dictate how many keyboards they should have in them. At this point for us, really, we're through the experimental stage where for years we'd try keyboards here just because we hadn't before. We might try an orchestra or a choir because we hadn't before, but at this point, having done those things, now we apply the different colors available to us according to what the song demands rather than what our sense of experimentation demands.
Well, it seems like every rock and roll band has a sponsor these days, and I notice you guys too on the CD. The CD is brought to you by the letter B.
Yeah.
I like that, I got to tell you. As one who often watches Sesame Street, not out of choice, that one really rang true. Yeah.
Well, it started on, I think, Power Windows. About 3 or 4 of the songs on that album, the title started with M, so we noticed that coincidence and decided that record should be brought to you by the letter M. Yeah. And it's become a running joke for various reasons.
Oh, that's great. We're going to start tonight, Neil, with Dreamline. What brought out the now famous line, "We're only immortal for a limited time"?
I wish I knew. I just started thinking about that quality of life that most people go through when they're young, and for some people it lasts even longer, that they are suspended in this invulnerability, you know, that nothing can hurt them, and something bad might happen to other people but never to them, and other people might face tragedies, but their lives are going to be singularly blessed no matter what they do or how much effort or how little effort they exert. Their lives are charmed. And of course some people are that comes true for them, but other people of course are doomed to disappointment on that belief.
Unfortunately, that is the case sometimes. Dreamline by Rush from Roll the Bones on Rockline. Roll it. Dreamline by Rush from Roll the Bones on Rockline on the Global Satellite Network. Our number is toll-free 1-800-344-ROCK. Rush played Philadelphia last night. They're at the Spectrum in Philly again tomorrow night. Then you'll find them in Largo, Maryland at the Capitol Center on Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday at Madison Square Garden in New York City. We'll continue with Neil Peart in just a moment on Rockline on the Global Satellite Network. welcome back to Rockline. I'm Bob Coburn. Our number toll-free 1-800-344-ROCK. We have a new affiliate we'd like to welcome to Rockline tonight. Z95, serving Paducah, Kentucky and Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Glad to have you aboard tonight. It's an evening with Neil Peart of Rockline. We have Tony on the line in Guelph, Ontario, listener of Q107 in Toronto. Tony, you're on with Neil.
Thanks a lot, man.
Hi, Tony.
Thanks, Neil. I can't believe this, man.
Hello, Tony in Guelph. Come in, please.
Right on. Okay. First of all, though, I just want to thank Rockline for making this broadcast possible. I've never been on the show before, but I figure that if I'm going to be
asked me a question,
I might as well be on with the best.
You know, Tony, you comment on that, and I have to tell you that I read a lot of the mail that comes in, and about 1 out of 5 letters is a Rush letter. It's amazing. I mean, like 1 out of 5 letters that we get.
I live for this band. You know?
And the most requested thing is to get Neil on the show. So you got him. So what's your question, Tony?
Good evening, Neil.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Is it snowing in Guelph?
I must admit, the usual. I've been a really big fan of yours for years. And,
oh, great, thanks.
I never thought I'd ever be lucky enough to speak to you personally, but I guess that's the way that Lady Luck dances, eh?
Oh, good
Right
quote.
I have 2 questions for you.
Okay, go.
But before I ask them, I just want to tell you, Neil, that words just simply can't express the degree of respect that I have for you and your work.
Oh, I'm blushing.
My
Stop.
adolescent years were pretty rough.
Well, Tony, thanks for the call, but you've used your time, and we're moving on. No, what's your questions, Tony?
Okay, my question is this, First, I'd like to know, I know that you do a lot of traveling, and I was just wondering if there's any particular place in the world that's had a really lasting impact on you as a writer, or if you've ever met anyone who's done the same.
Good question, but a difficult one. I kind of think the traveling has more to do with me as a person, but then, of course, that rebounds into a tremendous effect on me as a writer. So it's difficult to trace that, and in a direct sense, I very seldom write about a specific travel or a specific event, other than the case of, for instance, Taishan, which was about a visit to China, and I used climbing the mountain of Taishan as a symbol for what I felt about China and from the Chinese people. But even more powerful, I think, have been travels I've had around Africa, which I haven't really written about directly in songs, but at the same time, an experience that big with so many people living under such different circumstances and in such a deeply different culture as ours has affected my understanding and my tolerance, I think, a great deal for people who are different than I am and who have different values in life. And suddenly I'm much less judgmental, I think, because I've seen the value of other ways of living and seen that you don't have to be as goal-oriented as I am, for instance, to be happy. So I can say, well, this is my choice, that's their choice, and equally, they both equally address the pursuit of happiness, which to me is the ultimate good. Second question.
I'm glad to hear you say that once you leave North America, you find out there's another way to live. There's a different way to do it. What else, Tony?
Yeah, and my other question is, I was just wondering why you don't get credit for writing any of the music. I mean, surely you contribute to creating the rhythm of the song, and all the drum fills and the rolls are your creation, are they not?
Yeah, but I think traditionally the composing of music is considered to be a melodic undertaking, and that's what Geddy and Alex are doing in their room while I'm in my room working on the lyrics. And they both, too, have a big influence on the lyrics of criticizing what might be improved upon, and it helps me a lot when I come in and present them an idea, and they say, well, yeah, this part isn't quite clear enough. I really like what you're after, but I think you could nail it a little better. And that tends to be a positive response and sends me back happier. So it would be like saying that they should get credit for that amount of input in the lyrics, when in fact I still have to go back and do the work. And the same as if I contribute a drum part and it adds to the arrangement of the song perhaps, or influences the dynamics or the arrangement, it's the melodic structure of the song is still composed by Geddy and Alex. So it's not a thing that I have a conflict with, because as I stated at the outset too, I'm very happy with the amount of input I get to put in creatively, and I'm very satisfied by my reward for that. So there's no need to quibble.
Tony, thanks. Good start. We're going to move on to Binghamton, New York, and speak with Holly, a listener of WKGB-FM. Holly, you're on with Neil Peart.
Hi, Holly. Happy Christmas.
Hi.
Couldn't resist, sorry.
Oh, goodness, I've waited so long here.
What, for Christmas?
Well, I actually have 2 questions here.
Okay.
The first one, you stayed with the same producer for a long time, and how do you know really when to move on?
It is, I guess, a question of growth. When you're beginning, you have so much to learn. And Terry Brown at the time had a lot more experience than we did, and he knew a lot. And he was our teacher and mentor, and in many ways another member of the band for all those years. But a certain part, I guess we'd squeezed him dry in the nicest sense, and we felt that there was more to learn from different levels of experience perhaps, and from people who had come from different styles of music, which in subsequent choices that we made production-wise, they were based on that. Somebody who was still interested in the song first, because certainly by those days even, we'd learned the technical side of recording well enough that we knew how to make our instruments sound good, and we knew how to create a record that would sound good, but we wanted the song input and the musical input and someone else's angle on it. So that's what I think has contributed to the change, which I think we'll continue to go through too. And we need somebody else's input. We'll always want somebody there, but that person, I think the change can always contribute more to us when it comes from a fresh ear and a fresh set of ideas.
Anything else tonight, Holly?
Yeah, and more on a personal note for like a second question. Whether you want to answer it or not.
All right.
The song Ghost of a Chance, I was just wondering, when you wrote it, are you involved with anyone?
Yeah, myself. No, I was just thinking about it. It's the overall theme being chance, and the chance in relationships, how rare it is to find someone with the chemistry to begin with. But also I chose the words carefully, saying that find someone to love and make it last, because I think really making it last is an act of will and an act of discipline, and takes more than just the first hormonal charge of lightning to make it endure. So the answer to the question is yes, but the thinking of it went far more universal than just thinking about myself, because as a matter of principle, I don't really like songs about self-revelation or people that write whole albums about their divorces and stuff like that. So my ideal is always to find a point of personal feeling and try to make it universal, whether it be anger or love or happiness or inspiration. I want to take those things in myself and try to find a metaphor or a set of images that will allow other people to share them in their own experiences. So yes and yes.
Holly, there you go. Thanks. We'll get to Ghost of a Chance in a few minutes. Right now, I Feel Lucky, Roll the Bones. Gotta get out there and take your shot. Roll the Bones, title track of the newest by Rush. Neil Peart is our guest tonight. I'm Bob Coburn on Rockline. Mike's on the line in Chicago, listener of the Loop FM 98. You're on the Rockline, Mike.
Hello, Neil.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm great, thanks. How about you?
Oh, just perfect.
Great.
Hey, I was wondering, last time Getty was on, someone asked him if Rush would consider doing a soundtrack to a movie, and Getty alluded to the fact that if the right screenplay were available, then they would. Now, my question to you is, what kind of screenplay would that be? And if there weren't, would you consider writing your own screenplay?
If I knew how. No, it's very much a separate discipline, I think, that I would be reluctant to get into without learning a whole lot about. I think Getty's answer still stands that we would be interested in it, but it would mean a sacrifice that would be hard, because the focus of this band has been so linear from record to record and from tour to tour that we have remained pretty much loyal to the creative growth of Rush. And if we were to make a soundtrack, we wouldn't really consider it as a Rush album, because we would want to be free to go off into atmospheric ideas or things that a good soundtrack musician creates, to supplement the action on screen. So it would make it necessary for us to do a little sidestep, I think, from the main thrust of what we do. So that's the reason why we would be a little bit hesitant unless we were fully, convinced that the project was worth making that sacrifice for, because I think we would see it as a sacrifice of devoting ourselves to a Rush album as opposed to quite a separate ambition.
Mike, there you go. Thanks for being on. Glad we got a Chicago call. I know that Chicago was one of the early cities that really got behind Rush, and they have been myriad Rush fans there for many, many years. And Mike, thank you for being on the program. We're taking a time out. We're coming back. We've just gotten started with Neil Peart. You can call toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. It's Rockline on the Global Satellite Network. And welcome back to Rockline. I'm Bob Coburn. We're with Neil Peart on the Global Satellite Network, and Neil is joining us live via satellite from Philadelphia. Next week on Rockline, it'll be your chance to call in and talk live with a Rolling Stone and an expensive wino. Mr. Keith Richards will be here, and that is 1 week from tonight, same time, same place. Keith Richards right here on this Global Satellite Network station. We have Mike on the line in Cheshire, Connecticut, listening to 106 HCN in Hartford. And Mike, you're on with Neil Peart from Rush.
Hello, Neil.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good. Let me just tell you, I think you're the best drummer and lyricist ever.
Well, maybe the best in this room.
Well, I have a couple questions for you tonight. The first one is,
How did you become involved with Rush after John Rutsey left? Did you know Geddy and Alex beforehand?
I didn't actually know them personally, but we had a mutual friend who recommended me as someone who might be suitable to the band and the music, and from then it was the usual audition thing, and we got along well, so we got together, and here we are now.
And what else for you tonight, Mike?
Okay, I know you guys have a strong international following across the whole world, and I was wondering how you plan your tours, like how much of the world are you going to cover with each tour?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do, really. We lay out the parameters of how long the tour should last and in what increments we want to work in terms of how many shows a week and how many weeks on the road without getting home and that sort of thing. And from then on, it really becomes our manager's job to sort it out and fill in the dots, as it were, where we'll go. And it is hard to fulfill all the commitments. I've often said that we could just basically tour the United States every time, and we wouldn't have any trouble filling in those blanks. But we try to get to Europe every second tour, and once, for our own indulgence, really, we did Japan. And to go further afield than that would really be indulgence, and every time it's at the expense of a part of North America, basically. The time we went to Japan, for instance, we missed a whole chunk of the Pacific Northwestern United States, and if we go to Europe on previous tours, we've had to leave out parts of Canada or parts of the United States. So if we go somewhere else to make those people happy, inevitably somebody back here is left unhappy. So it's a difficult thing to juggle, but essentially we just try to be as fair about it as we can.
It's a life of choices. We are on in Japan, Rockline, and I know that they would love to see you there, so we may get some calls from Japan before the evening is through. And talking about touring, briefly, you'll find Rush in Providence, Rhode Island on December 9th, in Worcester, Mass. At the Centrum on the 10th, in Albany on the 12th, Hartford, Connecticut at the Civic Center on the 13th, the Auditorium in Buffalo the 15th of December, then the 16th, Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens. Then the band takes a little time off for the holidays and then gets back out on the road again. We're going to play a song right now from an album that came out in 1980, I believe the release date for this. Permanent Waves, The Spirit of Radio, Rush on Rockline.
Watch out for the fake ending.
Oh, got it there. know that ending by heart, believe me. The Spirit of Radio, that's Rush. We're with Neil Peart tonight. Lisa's on the line, patiently waiting to speak with Neil. She's in San Diego, listening to Rock 102.1. Hi there.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Lisa. It's Neil here.
Okay. My question is, what was the inspiration behind the album 2112, and if you're surprised at how popular the album still is today?
Inspiration behind it was it's difficult always to trace those lines because so many things tend to coalesce. And in fact, it ended up being quite similar to a book called Anthem by the writer Ayn Rand, but I didn't realize it while I was working on it. And then eventually, as the story came together, the parallels became obvious to me, and I thought, oh, gee, I better, I don't want to be a plagiarist here. So I did give credit to her writings in the liner notes. As for its survival, I think it is explainable in a sense because that album came out of a time of turmoil for us where a lot of people were trying to tell us what to do and how to commercialize our music and how we ought to be doing this and how we ought to be doing that. And basically 2112 for us was a statement of rebellion that we're going to do it our way. And as soon as we announced that we were doing a sidelong piece, on it, the record company doesn't want that. And our response was, well, we're not making it for the record company, we're making it for ourselves. So I think that sense of rebellion and the sense of oppression that we felt from those around us came through the music, and it has such a strong sincerity about it because we really did feel that way at the time, that it was us against the world. So perhaps that inherent emotion still communicates itself.
It remains tremendously popular. Elisa, thanks for the call. We're going to speak with Dan in Thunder Bay, Ontario. 94 FM is our affiliate there. And Dan, you're on the Rockline with Neil Peart.
Congratulations on the new album, Neil. Good evening.
Oh, thanks, Dan. All the way to Thunder Bay.
Minneapolis show, once again, a blast.
Thanks.
A couple of quick questions here.
Okay.
The new album is kind of a parent's life and death and the chances in between.
Right.
It seems you've been dealing with death in some form or another since about 1984 and Grace Under Pressure, a very dark album. I'm wondering if maybe your music is a release on how you deal with mortality, maybe some comment on that. Also, quick question here. Are the deaths in After Image and The Pass related, seeing as how we're on the subject of death?
Right. What a pleasant subject it is on this rainy night in Philadelphia, too. I guess all of us deals with mortality in one sense or another, whether it's direct or not. And just working backwards on the questions, basically, no, the After Image is a specific tribute, an elegy, I guess, to a personal friend of ours, where The Pass is more of a general statement that giving up is not noble, essentially. I didn't want to address the specific idea of anyone's suicide or anything like that. It was just about how to accept failure, and in fact, that's been a common topic for me, and Bravado is about the same thing, really. How do you deal with failure, really, is just get up and try again, rather than saying, oh, I failed, so I give up, that was the essence of it there. I think really, for me, the subject tends much more often to be life and how to deal with it rather than death. And mortality is something that I'm curious about in songs like Losing It, or as you mentioned in Grace Under Pressure. But that was a response to other people much more than anything in myself. I was looking around, that was in the early 80s when actually economic times were not unlike what they are today, and I was seeing a lot of my friends having difficulties with their livelihoods or difficulties with their relationships, and I couldn't help but respond to that. I couldn't just say, well, my life's okay, I'm happy. I had to care about the people that were around me, both the ones I knew and the rest of them in the world that I didn't know. So in some ways, that record was very much a response to the times as I felt them at that time. So I don't really have a preoccupation with death. In fact, this album is the perfect example of that immortality that I address is something that I still feel. I still feel I'm on the upward curve, and I'm still improving, and nothing has happened, fortunately, to me yet to convince me that I've hit the hill yet, let alone crossed it. So I think that's much more that element of hopeful optimism, and one of my mottos lately has been, you hope for the best but plan for the worst, and I guess I try to balance idealism with realism in both of those sentences. So my idealism is apparent, but sometimes I do take a look at realism and see what I can learn from it, I guess.
There you go, Dan. You got your questions answered directly from Neil. We go from Thunder Bay to Tokyo Bay. We have Colin on the line, a listener of Bay FM 78. Colin, here's Neil for you.
Hey, Neil, how's it going, man?
Colin, from Thunder Bay to Tokyo. What a leap. Hi.
Yeah, big change. I got a question going back to the topic of 2112. I was wondering if you had any plans to do another concept album like 2112.
All right, I don't have any plans to, but I don't have any plans not to either. It was something that would depend upon the idea and the necessary amount of excitement about the idea, really. When we go into work on writing, we don't establish parameters and saying, right, we're going to write 10 5-minute songs or anything like that. We just really start working, and what emerges is in some ways spontaneous. It's controlled spontaneity, I guess. We try to manage it along the way and organize carefully and arrange the songs carefully and all of that. But at the same time, we don't start out with any limitations or any lack of limitations, really. It's just what comes out. So I think if I came in with an idea strong enough lyrically to convince the other guys that it was worth a major work like that, it could happen. But we don't feel it a limitation in 5-minute songs now anymore. We really feel that's a comfortable length, that lyrically I can say what I need, and musically we can say what we feel we need to, and as individual musicians we can be satisfied instrumentally. So we just don't feel limited by that. But at the same time, to answer your question, it could happen, but we don't know.
Well, you certainly accomplished a lot in the 5 minutes and 13 seconds of this next song. This song is a tour de force for me. This is just an outstanding piece of work. This is called Ghost of a Chance, Rush on Rockline. Ghost of a Chance from Roll the Bones. Are we halfway done or halfway begun? We'll be back with Neil Peart in just a moment on Rockline on the Global Satellite Network. Call us toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. Thanks for coming back with us. It's Rockline in progress. I'm Bob Coburn. We're with Neil Peart from Rush tonight. We have a call by Tom in Cincinnati. He's a listener of WEBN. We welcome him to the program. Hello, Tom.
Hi. How you doing, Neil?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
I just want to say I recently saw your show in October in Cincinnati, and I thought it was great.
Good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one too. Actually, I happen to remember.
Yeah, it was really good, especially the mix of various songs at the end.
Oh yeah, the medley from the mother of all medleys.
The mother of all medleys.
Especially with Xanadu. That was a really nice surprise to hear Xanadu in concert.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's fun to do also.
And I wanted to ask, on Moving Pictures on your album, after the song Red Barchetta, there is a statement that says, inspired by A Nice Morning Drive by Richard Foster. And I've basically been looking for this book or poem since the album came out, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I was wondering if you knew where I could find it or if I could get it some way through Rockline or somehow.
Right. No, I had a lot of questions about that. In fact, I get letters from librarians because people go to the public library, and there are certain really conscientious librarians who have to track it down. And in fact, it comes from the magazine Road and Track, published around the mid-'70s, I think. And I actually had to go to them and find out because I remembered the story, but I couldn't remember when or where or who the writer had been. And so they in fact sent me a photocopy of it because it just sort of hung around in my memory. The same, actually, Roll the Bones is a perfect example of that. About 15 years ago, I read a short story by a science fiction writer called Fritz Lieber, and it was called "Gonna Roll the Bones." And I loved the phrase and stuck it in my notebook, and it sat there waiting for a home for all these years. And then finally, when I was thinking about chant so much on this record, finally Roll the Bones came up and smacked me in the face and said, "Use me, use me."
I'm here, remember me?
Yeah. I'm an old idea, but I'm still good.
Tom, thank you. Let's move on to Plano, Texas. We have Mike on the line, a listener of Q102 in Dallas. Mike, you're on the rock line with Neil Peart.
Neil, how's it going?
Very well, thanks, Mike. How about for you?
All right, I'm on the dream line tonight.
Yeah, I guess we all are.
My question is, I remember reading in the book Visions.
Oh, yeah.
When you were 18, you took a trip to England.
Right.
And toured with bands such as Thin Lizzy. And how did that experience affect your outlook on the musical industry?
Very darkly, unfortunately. Being at that age, of course, I was wildly naive and had great hopes of finding fame and fortune in London, where the streets were paved with gold and where all my favorite bands were from and everything. But of course, I went there armed with a list of record companies and a list of booking agencies and started slogging through the rainy streets from office to office, getting rejected and rejected until I finally had to get a real job because my money ran out. But I still basically worked there in semi-professional bands, so I learned a couple of valuable things. First of all, that I could do other things to earn a living rather than play drums, which was a good thing to learn. And also that I preferred that. I would rather be in a band part-time that played the music I like to play as opposed to playing drums for a living if I had to play like polkas or something that I didn't particularly enjoy. So that was an important judgment. But also growing up, I mean, I was 18, the first time I'd ever lived away from home, and suddenly I was so far away from home and into the working world and paying rent and living on my own and so on. So obviously to anyone, that's a pretty major experience in life.
So what do you got against polkas, huh?
Nothing. They're a lot of fun to dance to, but I don't think the drummer has much fun.
Mike, thanks for the call. We're going to move on. We'll stay in Texas, head a little south right now to Austin. It's Amy, a listener of KLBJ FM 94. Amy, you're on.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Amy. Welcome.
I was wondering, being an engineer, I have a technical question for you.
Oh, dear.
On the last few tours, I've noticed that you wear headphones sometimes and sometimes not. What are you listening to? This is a great debate.
Good question. This tour is an example. For instance, I wear headphones in two of the songs, which are Time Stand Still and Roll the Bones. And basically it's to keep in sync with the film track, because we have your namesake, Amy, doing background vocals in Time Stand Still, so we have her up on the screen and singing on the soundtrack. And then in Roll the Bones, of course, we have the Mohawk skeleton up on the screen. So basically I'm just playing to a sync track, staying in time with the film through those two songs.
That's just a click track that you hear in your headphones to keep you in meter, yeah.
Just so that when those things appear, they're in time with us.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That quite often happens in when you stage something like that. I know the Wall, when it was done in Berlin, the whole show was done with a click track so that they would stay in sync with all the special effects that took place and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that would be awfully difficult to be so tightly disciplined through the whole show, where you were the slave to the click, as we call it. I don't mind it in short doses for a necessary cause. It's okay, but live, it's nice sometimes to have it be your own responsibility, because the hardest thing for a drummer is to keep the tempo right, and something I'm constantly re-examining from show to show, and it affects so many other things. And it's, let's face it, the fundamental part of my job is to keep the time right. So it's something that I take a lot of pride in doing it organically when I can, but as it was an engineering question, then it becomes just a technical situation.
Amy, thank you very much. A couple more concert dates at the beginning of the second leg for Rush. Las Cruces, New Mexico on January 18th, San Diego at the Sports Arena on the 20th, then up to the Forum in Los Angeles the 22nd and 23rd of January, and Vancouver, BC on February 2nd. More dates to follow for North America, and then Rush will be in Europe in the springtime sometime. I'm going to play another song from Roll the Bones for you right now. This one is called Bravado on Rockline on the Global Satellite Network. Bravado, the name of that from Roll the Bones. We're with Neil Peart from Rush tonight on Rockline. I'm Bob Coburn. Your number's toll-free, as always, 1-800-344-ROCK. That's what Eric called. He is in Lake Elsinore, California, and is a listener of 95.5 KLOS. Eric, you're on the Rockline.
Neil, sir.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
Got a couple of questions. First, a really quick one. On Roll the Bones, in the middle there, you've got a guy who sounds like he's almost rapping. It can't be Geddy, because his voice is about 8 octaves too low. Who is that?
It actually is Geddy. But we went through an awful time trying to decide who was going to do it, you know. And I, from a lyricist point of view, I really wanted to write something structured the way better rap music is, with the wordplay and the internal rhymes and everything. So I brought it to the other guys, and they were open-minded enough to think that it would be fun to try. So we thought about different ways of approaching it and whether we should get a real authentic rapper, as it were, in there. And while we were recording the vocals in England, we even tried using a female voice to see what effect that would have, and different treatments on Geddy's voice and so on. And eventually it became apparent that the most pleasant to listen to was this affected version of Geddy's voice that manages to lower his voice without altering the timing, where in years previous, harmonizer would always slow down the voice too, so you'd get that sort of Hal in 2001 effect. But eventually we just decided that Geddy too, when he had that effect on his voice, it affected his delivery, and it had the right sort of attitude, this really cool offhand delivery that we were looking for, and that eventually became exemplified too by the skeleton in the video and in the live show. So it just was a decision that basically it was a musical decision that when you put the headphones on and listen to the song, this was the sound that was most enjoyable to listen to.
Bassist, vocalist, keyboardist, and now rapper, Mr. Geddy Lee, ladies and gentlemen.
MC.
That's right.
Hammer dropped the MC. We're keeping it.
MC Geddy Lee. Eric, what else tonight?
Another question. What was it like for you to come into a band that was already established? Because they did their first album without you, and then you came in. What was it like to come in with them and almost, I mean, you played the drums and began writing the lyrics almost as though you took over, not to sound negative, but you had all this creative control. What was that like to come into an already established band and almost reestablish it? What was that like?
Well, it wasn't as clear-cut as that at the time, obviously. It was just a series of events of us getting to know each other as musicians and what our strengths were individually and compositionally and so on. So it was almost by default, for instance, that I started writing the lyrics, because I hadn't been writing lyrics previous to that, but neither of the other guys were very interested in doing it. So I thought, okay, well, I've always liked reading books. I'll give this a try. So it became just an accidental default kind of situation there. And then getting involved in the arrangements and so on was a pretty natural growth. And there was a catalytic thing between the three of us, too, that each of us as musicians allowed each other to do different things. In fact, the first day we ever played together, the basis of the song Anthem was one of the things that we sort of jammed on. And the chemistry was apparent just from things like that, we had something to offer each other, I guess, in musical energy and in that symbiotic kind of thing where we each, I guess even more so, the whole being greater than the parts, was apparent right there, and that was sort of the birth of a song on day one. So it wasn't any calculated thing at all. It was just us finding each other and like I say, our strengths and where we could best help each other.
You must have been a voracious reader. Do you still find time for it? You still?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's so many books, so little time.
Eric, thanks for the call. We're taking a time out. We'll be back in a moment. We're with Neil Peart of Rush on Rockline tonight, and you can call and talk with him toll-free from anywhere in North America at 1-800-344-ROCK. Only one number for the one and only Rockline on the global satellite network. Welcome back to Rockline. Thanks for coming back. I'm Bob Coburn. We're with Neil Peart tonight from Rush, and we have a call from the home territory for Neil right now. A listener of Q107 in Toronto, in Richmond Hill, Ontario, is Ro. And Ro, good evening and welcome to Rockline.
Neil, how you doing?
Very well, thanks. How about you?
I'm sure you know where Richmond Hill is.
I have an idea, yep. Just go north. Past the tree line.
The old manor and those old things. Okay, I was going to ask you, how serious were you guys in recruiting a fourth offstage band member? Because I noticed that on previous tours before Presto and Roll the Bones, Geddy especially seemed not to be enjoying himself because he was so occupied with the keyboards.
Yeah, it's been a constant matter of inner debate, certainly for Geddy and for all of us, that everybody's so darn busy on stage now that sometimes it's hard to have fun. But we were nervous about the chemistry of adding a fourth member, and we're pretty proud too of being a trio in the sense of what we can accomplish as three guys, and thus we decided to deal with that as a certain kind of limitation in live work. But at the same time, we can structure the show around that, and the earlier part of the show will have the more demanding parts where Geddy and Alex are pressing things with their feet and hitting things with their fingers, and I'm sending off some keyboard samples too from behind the drum kit, and we're sharing the labor as much as we can. And then toward the end of the the show, we structure it so that a lot of that drops out and the songs are less demanding technologically, and we can have more fun. So basically the serious part of the show comes over, and we feel that a certain pressure lifts, and I think the audience feels it too, so that by the time we get to the end of the show and into the encore, it's very evident that everybody's supposed to have fun now, that the hard part's over with. So it is a difficult decision to make, but we like being a trio, so we just decided we'd have to deal with it.
Ro, thanks for the call. We appreciate you being on tonight. From Roll the Bones, time to give the big wheel a spin on Rockline. The Big Wheel by Rush from Roll the Bones. We have another call for Neil from Patrick in Detroit, Michigan, listening to WRIF. Patrick, you are on the Rockline.
Mr. Peart.
Yes, hi, Patrick.
Yeah, great show at the Palace a few weeks back.
Thank you.
Couple of quick questions.
Okay.
First, regarding your tours, why does Rush choose to perform music from every release, with the exception of Caress of Steel?
Nothing deliberate, really. It's just kind of an intuitive choice of songs that we can still feel comfortable playing, I guess, and there really isn't one on there that I think we would resurrect comfortably and enjoyably for ourselves. So it's not really a deliberate ignoring that, the way I guess some bands have ignored albums that they feel were overlooked or whatever out of bitterness. But for us, it is so hard. There are far too many albums for us to represent each one of them in a 2-hour show even. So we select little bits that we think would be fun to play and that the audience might have fun hearing, as certainly we did this time. What can I say? We just try to find enough new songs and an interesting selection of old songs, and if they get tired, we retire them, or in the case of this tour, we brought back Limelight because we felt that we could have fun playing it again. And basically, it's just a question of sincerity, whatever we feel we can sincerely convey to the audience.
Patrick, there you go. We're going to move on. We're going to run out of time if we don't. We're going to talk with Jeremy in Atlanta right now, a listener of 96 Rock. Jeremy, you're on.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Jeremy.
First of all, I'd just like to say I really enjoy your music, and it means a lot. And
thank you.
My question is, who or what is the gangster of boats that appears on the liner notes of Hold Your Fire and the subtitle to Where's My Thing?
Right. Strictly an inside joke in a sense that the other two guys keep threatening that if I don't come up with an album title in time, they're going to call it Gangster of Boats for reasons best known to them. And then the joke in that, of course, it's part 4 of a trilogy. So we thought that was apropos.
It was nice to hear.
Yep.
Nice to hear you do an instrumental again, actually, too.
Yeah, as I mentioned in some of the writing I've done about the record, that we always intend to, but our best intentions tend to get derailed by, I come in with some words and the guys have just written a piece of music that happens to marry to it perfectly, and away we go, so the instrumental gets robbed.
Does Getty ever come to you and say, these are great lyrics, Neil, but I don't think I can sing these?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of feedback I get there, and what you would call, for another 50-cent word, the euphoniousness of it has become really important, and he and I work very closely to make sure a line says what I want it to say clearly, but also is as good as possible for him to sing and as comfortable as possible, and also the rhythmic breakup of the line in terms of vowels and consonants affects a singer a lot, and it's something I'm learning more about all the time in the craft of lyric writing, so certainly I get a lot of feedback from Getty on that, and there are words that look good on paper and sound good in my head, but certainly do not fall off the tongue readily for him. So, and that input I'm glad to get because, of course, again, in the end, it just makes it better.
Well, euphony is a wonderful thing, especially when compared to cacophony. We'll be back in a moment on Rockline. We're back, home stretch with Neil Peart from Rockline, or from Rush. That's twice I've done that tonight. You're now an official member of Rockline, Neil, so there you go. We have Yoko on the line in Tokyo Bay, a listener of Bay FM 78. Yoko, here's Neil for you.
Hi.
Hello, Yoko. Yes, hello.
Hello. You haven't been in Japan for a long time. Do you have any plans of coming over?
It could happen. It's hard to say. I think I mentioned earlier that for us it's kind of an indulgence to do these things for ourselves, to go to interesting places and that, because we're kept so busy just by the size of our audience in Canada and the United States. We went there before and had a really nice time, and I think it's possible we would go back again, but we don't have any immediate plans to. This year we plan to go back to Europe because they're mad at us for not going there for the last 5 years. So. You can't please everybody. It's difficult.
Yoko, there you go, and thank you for the call from Tokyo Bay to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Brian's on the line, a listener of C95. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, how you doing, Neil?
Good. How's Saskatoon?
Good. Nice and cold. Quick question here. I noticed that a lot of your songs, and now with Roll the Bones, you deal with astronomy and space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested in that, and I'm just wondering to what degree do you and the guys have interest in that?
I guess just an amateur's fascination with it. I think you might be referring to the opening verse of Dreamline, which has kind of an interesting history. During the last tour between Cincinnati and Columbus, we had a day off, so I bicycled up that trip, and I got there after 100 miles, all tired and sweaty, and sat down and had dinner and watched Nova, and there was a program on satellite imaging, and they were literally making a road map of Jupiter, and they were talking about the rivers that they've been able to map under the Sahara, which used to be a tropical rainforest. So just the imagery of that captured me in an I guess it has to do with astronomy, but dealing with space for me is just the final frontier. But it is just fascination, when you lay in the ground and look up at the night sky, you just can't help but be carried away. Mystic Rhythms is another song, too, that addressed that particular feeling of smallness, but at the same time, spiritual greatness, that you're a part of all that wonderfulness.
Brian, thank you. We're moving quickly now to Rockford, Illinois. Ken's on the line, a listener of 104.9 FM, The X. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Neil?
Hi, Ken. I'm doing fine. How about you?
Oh, great.
Great.
My question here is, in the band's spare time, does everyone tend to stay away from each other and do other things, or do they have separate projects?
Yeah, not too much, actually. In fact, when we're on the road, most times Geddy and Alex will be out together playing tennis, or we'll see each other, just even to have dinner or have a drink after the show or something. During the off time, when we're actually on holidays, everybody will be off to different parts of the world or getting to know their own families again and so on. So, we don't stay apart out of antipathy or disliking each other or anything, but just by having different lives, which, of course, is a healthy thing for the relationship.
There you go, Ken. Thanks for being on tonight. Sam, you get the honor of being the last caller with Neil Peart tonight. He's in Tacoma, Washington. FM 100 in Seattle is our station. Hey, Sam.
How you doing?
Hi, Sam.
How you doing? First of all, I'd like to say Rush has been one of my favorite bands for over the last 10 years. And
thank you.
My first question is to do with the longevity of Rush, what you might attribute to your continued success, and how long can we expect to see new Rush albums in the future?
It's always difficult to answer the question about why it's lasted so long, but certainly it has to do with personality, temperament, and the level of satisfaction, as I think I said earlier in the program, that none of us feels like we have to get outside of the band to assert ourselves or make a solo album to express our true personalities. Because, for instance, myself as a drummer, there's never been a style of music I've wanted to play that I haven't been able to get into our music, whether it's African music or reggae music or big band jazz or whatever I like, and if it fits with the other guys, it works. There are no limitations that we establish to what Rush is. As far as the future, actually, we're feeling exceptionally hopeful that we really recognize during the making of this record that it is something that will satisfy us creatively for a long time. So certainly we don't see any end in sight.
Sam, thank you for the call. Thanks to everyone for listening and for calling tonight. If you'd like to drop a line, our address is Rockline, P.O. Box 4383, Hollywood, California, 90078. Next week, we'll give you a chance to call in and talk live with the Rolling Stone and an expensive wino. Even more than that, as Rockline welcomes the legendary Keith Richards. Coming soon, Queensryche, The Cult, and we'll round out the year with the best of Rockline 1991. Some special thanks go out tonight to Kim Garner from also Andrew McNaughton and Ray Daniels from SRO Productions, to Vicky Germais from Atlantic Records, also to Lauren Karasik, Ron Barron, Richard Parker, and the rest of our Rockline production team in Philadelphia. Now that you have done 90 minutes with us on Rockline, Neil, what do you think? Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy talking to your fans?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you very much and everyone who called in, and it's been a really good experience. I enjoyed it.
Now, I was told that you hadn't done live radio in some 10 years or so. Is that the case?
That could be something like that. Yeah, I've done recorded ones after the show or during the afternoon or whatever, but it's hard to haul me into a radio station in the afternoon these days. There are so many other things to do.
Well, we hope you come back, and that is certainly not 10 years before you're back with us again. So
thank you. I'd like to come back.
All right. Well, you have an opportunity to come back anytime, and please give our best to Geddy and to Alex, and good luck with the rest of the tour. And thanks for being here tonight. I'm really glad you had a good time.
I certainly will. Thank you.
I'm BC, and I'll be seeing you in a week.